Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday morning. Hopefully, we all have had a wonderful weekend so far, and hopefully, we're all staying weather aware today. We do have a pretty active day for a big section of the country, so definitely going to talk a lot about that. We're also going to discuss the week ahead and what we can expect as we begin to close out June and prepare for July. So, that'll really be the main focus of today's video. I do want to start off by saying I do apologize for not having a video 3 days now in a row. Again, Thursday I was storm chasing, so I warned you about that one. I also said Friday I might again storm chase, which I did, although that was more local, so I wasn't as far from home. And then yesterday, again, we normally don't do Saturday videos, and I thought about doing one yesterday, but unfortunately the timing didn't really work out. And, again, like I said, Saturdays are kind of my busy day with family and stuff. So, again, I apologize, but unfortunately, just kind of the way that all those days worked out. But I definitely wanted to get a video out for you this morning because we do have a pretty dangerous day ahead for a lot of folks. So I want to let you know what you can expect here on all fronts as this storm system moves on through. So, with that said, we can go ahead and actually start talking about it now. So, taking a look at satellite imagery this morning, you can see a big-time low pressure spinning away over sections of the Midwest, really right over Minneapolis right now. And if you look at this on satellite, this kind of screams severe weather. The way that you can tell is you got this, big old low pressure, of course, spinning away, and then also you can kind of draw out this front in front of it, and you already see convection firing off along that front closer to the low. So this low is pretty far to the north, so a lot of the times we get these things to kind of track through here, which brings us those severe weather days down into Dixie Alley. But with the low pressure so far north, that'll bring the severe weather threat a little bit further north. Now, this will be a pretty big area of severe weather today, kind of through this entire front, but really the big tornado threat will definitely be kind of in here right along the Ohio River Valley today for sections of Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So, again, a lot of people living in those states and even other states that will be impacted by this today as well as tomorrow. So, again, definitely want to give you the latest information here. So, taking a look at radar as well. Again, you can see this low pressure spinning away over sections of the Midwest. And here are those storms that fired off in front of it this morning. Luckily, not really any instability to work with this early in the morning. So, these storms are all sub-severe, but nonetheless, still a little bit of lightning as well as plenty of heavy rainfall rates and some gusty winds as that moves on through during the morning hours. Now, what happens behind that will be important because any sunshine we get this afternoon here back again behind this convection will allow the atmosphere to re-destabilize and once again fire off even stronger, more potent storms later this afternoon and evening. Now, focusing outside of there a little bit, again, still a whole lot of heat down here into Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and even extreme western Tennessee there. So the heat is still ongoing for you folks there, and I know you're probably tired of it, but unfortunately, there's really not much of an end in sight here for at least a little while. And in fact, I think more folks will start to get in on that heat through more of the country for some of us that have really been spared so far this year, but that should likely change as we go throughout the next couple of weeks. So that's not quite where that's supposed to be in the lineup. Sorry, let me move that on back a little bit. Okay, so there we go. Sorry, don't know why that was so far ahead. Anyway, so looking at today's severe weather threat, we actually have an enhanced risk for a big area here from Little Rock down towards Jackson, Mississippi, all the way up through Nashville, Louisville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Columbus, plenty of big cities here, and even a slight risk and marginal risk for areas further outside of there. Now, one thing I didn't pull up here, but that is pretty important, is the tornado risk today. So this is where we're, again, really going to have the biggest tornado risk here, kind of closer to that low pressure, and we actually have a 10% chance of seeing a tornado within a 25-mile radius, which might not sound like a lot, but that's actually pretty high here on our scale. So I would be pretty surprised not to see a tornado here today in sections of Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So, again, if you're in that area, definitely make sure you have a way to get those warnings. Stay prepared. Have an eye on the sky, an eye on the radar, and an eye to your local meteorologist there, whoever that is in your local area. And again, just make sure you're staying weather aware. Now, outside of there, we're still going to have plenty of severe weather down here into other areas. And I'm not saying we won't get a tornado down here, but further down here, it's more of a wind and hail threat compared to a tornado threat. So, again, just to reiterate kind of through here, make sure you're being extra weather aware. Everyone that's in this colored area outside of that circle, still make sure you're weather aware, just a little bit less of a tornado threat for you folks. Now, as we get into tomorrow, that tornado threat really diminishes. However, the severe weather threat will be plenty much alive. In fact, again, we already have an enhanced risk tomorrow for kind of the Raleigh-Durham area up towards Norfolk and the Richmond area of Virginia. So tomorrow's going to be a pretty big wind and hail day, I think, for a lot of folks here in kind of this yellow and orange area on the map. So from Columbia, South Carolina, up through the Charlotte metro area, back over towards Fayetteville, Raleigh, Durham, southeastern Virginia, and even up through the Delmarva and into Jersey and Philly. A lot of severe weather on the way tomorrow. And again, the tornado threat tomorrow is not zero by any means, but luckily it is lower than today for a lot of folks. So now that we've talked enough about that, let's go ahead and actually look at radar. So again, you'll notice as we go through this afternoon into about 1 o'clock, this kind of convection that is currently out here over Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky is going to kind of work its way on down to the south and southeast. So as we go into this afternoon, don't be surprised to see this kind of work its way into sections of eastern Tennessee through the Tri-Cities, western North Carolina, and even into upstate South Carolina, where these storms could be quite potent with enough daytime heating, so we'll definitely watch that. But going into about the 4-5 o'clock hour tonight is when things really begin to get quite dangerous here along this cold front. And again, you'll notice this cluster of storms is going to be what's really dangerous, where we have that enhanced tornado risk, but you'll see other clusters of storms fire off here around this cold front, and those as well can produce very strong winds and damaging hail. So again, you see where that fires off going into this afternoon and evening, and this is going into about 10 o'clock tonight. Still plenty of large hail, probably a lot of lightning and damaging winds, and even going into the overnight hours, even past midnight, we could see some damaging storms out of this cold front. Now, once we go further into the overnight hours, the severe weather threat dies down, but still plenty of rumbles of thunder as this convection moves on through the southeast. And once we get into tomorrow morning, into our kind of Monday morning commute into about 8 o'clock or so, expect some scattered showers and storms throughout much of the southeast as well as the Great Lakes region. Now, once we get into tomorrow afternoon, that's when things will once again fire off again. This is 1, 2, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So you'll notice first things will likely kind of fire off along the low pressure here into sections of the Northeast and the Midwest. But once we get into kind of the evening hours, that's when things begin to fire off here into the Southeast. So again, Columbia, South Carolina, up through Charlotte, North Carolina, and through the eastern section of Virginia, North Carolina, up through the Delmarva. Again, main threats, damaging winds, and potentially some pretty large hail, especially for this part of the country. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe even see a couple baseballs fall out of the sky tomorrow here into sections of the mid-Atlantic. And again, that will continue into the evening hours as it continues to move eastbound into the eastern Carolinas, going into the overnight hours. And again, could get a pretty big time squall line out of that going late into our Monday night before we get into Tuesday morning and things begin to clear out a bit. So kind of discussing the overall pattern that we're going to be in over the next week or so, because again, I think looking at this map is pretty important as it shows kind of where we're expecting high pressure and low pressure. So again, right now we're kind of going to see that low pressure here along areas of the Midwest as that cold front sweeps on through and brings that severe weather with it. And you'll notice going into our Monday afternoon, that continues to slide eastbound, and that is what will allow those storms to fire off here into the mid-Atlantic tomorrow. But once we get into our Tuesday, and sorry, I keep clicking soundings on the map that I do not mean to click. Anyway, as we go into our Tuesday afternoon, that kind of still just lingers around a bit, still moves a little bit off to the east-southeast, but this could once again lead to some more storm development on Tuesday, this time probably even a bit closer to the coast into the eastern Carolinas, extreme eastern Virginia, and into sections of Maryland and Delaware. And then as we go into Wednesday, that storm system finally kind of weakens and moves offshore a bit. Now, you'll notice we get another one to kind of work its way in from the Pacific, and this could once again bring unsettled weather later into the week. So after that first storm system kind of moves out, I think we'll get a bit of a lull going into our Friday and even our Thursday and potentially Saturday, but really going into Friday and Saturday is whenever this next storm system kind of works its way on through, and this could once again fire off some storms. Now, the good news is this one doesn't look quite as potent as the one we're going to be dealing with today and tomorrow, but could once again nonetheless cause some stormy weather into the east going into this weekend and even into potentially the first couple days of July as you see this kind of low pressure hang around in general into the east. Now, with that said, I do think we'll still have plenty of sunshine days and likely the return of some heat and humidity as well with it, but Also can't rule out some storms. So let me move this ahead into Tuesday afternoon, where we left off on our other model. And again, you'll notice Tuesday afternoon we could get some stronger storms here along the coast as this low pressure finally works its way on through. But going into Wednesday afternoon, again, a bit of a lull. Same for our Thursday afternoon, a bit of a lull outside of potentially the northeast where that low pressure might hang on a little bit longer. And with this lull, expect the return of some heat and some big-time humidity as well. And then as we go into our Friday, again, this next storm system is going to kind of begin to work its way out of the Rockies, and with that, bringing some storm chances back into this following weekend. So this is going into Friday afternoon here. You'll see those storms firing off again. Same thing for Saturday afternoon and even into this Sunday afternoon. So again, a big area likely of some stormy weather going into this coming weekend. Not expecting a washout, but I am expecting the flare-up of potentially some severe weather again, as well as just overall kind of summertime storms going into this following weekend. And again, that general pattern could hang around a little bit going into even the beginning of July a little bit. So we're going to have to watch out for that. All right, so taking a look at the dew points, and again, this just kind of shows how muggy the air is going to be. I'm going to kind of breeze on through this because it's not going to change a whole lot. Again, pretty muggy in front of this cold front, so today, before the storms move on through, it'll be likely pretty muggy. Same thing tomorrow as those storms move on through, and then we get a little bit of a lull, but don't expect that to last too long before once again, ahead of that next kind of stormy pattern this weekend, expect to return into those really high dew points, and this will likely be about as bad as it's gotten so far this year for a lot of people here in the southeast that have nonetheless been relatively spared throughout the Carolinas, Georgia, and surrounding areas that have really not had that bad of summertime heat and humidity. That'll likely change going into this coming weekend as we get pretty strong southerly flow, and that will bring in plenty of high dew points well past 70 for a lot of folks. And again, once you get past 70, that's when things get really uncomfortable. And again, the models kind of hang on to that idea for a while. So we could finally kind of see a flip of the script here going into the medium and long range of that return of more summer-like weather. And the Climate Prediction Center here agrees with overall temperature patterns as well. So this is 6 to 10 days out. So again, this is going into next weekend and the beginning of July. And again, they're expecting an increase in temperatures into sections of the southeast that have relatively been spared. Again, a lot of folks kind of in this blue area have seen relatively lower than average temperatures over the past couple of weeks and really through much of June. But I think that will likely change going into the beginning of July as we see a bit of a flip in the script. Now, in terms of temperatures, in terms of precipitation, not so much of a change, still kind of slightly above average rainfall expected for much of the east going into early July, as that stormy pattern kind of hangs around a bit and we likely get pretty consistent afternoon thunderstorms. So with that said, again, make sure you're staying safe today as well as tomorrow. Make sure you have a way to get those warnings. Make sure you have your local news station or the Weather Channel or wherever you get your weather information from. Make sure you have that on throughout the day just so you're kind of prepared there, especially in places like Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, where I'm really expecting potentially some strong tornadoes today. So that could definitely be pretty dangerous. So make sure you're paying attention. Anyway, with that said, hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will see you all tomorrow.